We are live now. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. This is July 22nd, 2018. Now let's address something serious. Unmute yourself, sir. Let's discuss this Zima, Kelly Young.
And how it relates to how does it relate to Mike's hair?
It doesn't in any way.
It doesn't. This is cool.
Oh, what? Really?
I remember drinking this when I was a young douchebag, and now that it has come back in a limited release, I'm embracing my.
So you're embracing your old douchey baggies.
That's right. This is hella refreshing, you guys, and I will not take your abuse.
Well, they didn't see before the show you were actually hugging it. You were so happy.
I would make out with it if I thought you guys would let me.
The other thing we have to discuss is your new car. You know, I'm really thinking about going to the executive editor status, if that's what it gets you.
Boy, I wish. We are shooting a film. That is not my real car, unfortunately. But for the last 2 days, I've been driving around a Porsche Carrera, and I had to deliver it just before the podcast started. I had to deliver it back to the owner.
Oh, that's why you were crying. Okay.
And get back in my Cadillac, which is not a bad car at all. But I'm driving my Cadillac going, Jesus Christ, how am I doing this? It's really gone down. It is, I've never been a Porsche guy. After driving one for 2 days, I got to say, I get what the fuss is all about.
Okay. All right. Any comments about my hair before we do the show?
No.
All right.
It's fine.
Okay. Fine. All right. Whatever. Okay. Let's do
your hair speaks for itself, Mike. I mean, there's nothing else we can say.
Okay, for everybody listening on audio later, which is like 3/4 of you. Yes, my head is nearly shaved. It's 107 degrees here. So, anyway, introductions. Rick, you want to go first?
Rick Lay, writer.
Pete
Rawlick, dog wrangler.
Matthew.
Hi, I'm Matt Carpenter. We are pushing slowly forward to a possible publication date for Hickman's Gallery. I also have a prize. It is The Fear Institute, Johannes Cabal. This is a series by the author Jonathan Howard. It's a hardcover copy of the first volume in the series. It is of some interest to Lovecraftians because there's a lot of setting in the dreamlands.
Okay.
It's a nice book.
Thanks for the prize. Kelly
Young, Zima Distribution Company.
I hope they're paying you for this 2-hour-long commercial.
No, actually, I might have to rethink this since Pete told me it's from Coors, but it does taste yummy, you guys.
Are you supposed to put a Jolly Rancher in it?
I have not heard that. I'm not that hip.
All right. Yeah, no, you're not. All right. So our guest today is Mike Thorn. How you doing, Mike?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Oh, no problem. So you're up in Canada, right?
Yeah, Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Mike has a collection out called Darkest Hours, which he graciously sent me a copy of. Darkest Hours by Mike Thorn. Just like it sounds, Thorn, and it's also available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can read it for free. So, S.P. Muskowski really liked it. She said some really nice things in the front of the book here. The protagonist may not know the precise nature of the catastrophe heading his way. This is just part of it. But you get the feeling that he's been anticipating something bad for a long time. Yeah, you know, I get a lot of books sent to me, Mike, and this one, yeah, the story's really grabbed me. This is a good book.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Were most of these published before, or some, are they all new?
It's about 50-50, I think. I think it actually might be an even split. I keep losing track. It's like either 9, 7, or 8 and 8 are published and unpublished.
Okay, well, I want to talk about some of the stories as much as we can without spoiling them. But I wanted to tell you, I think my favorite story was, let me find the table of contents here. The Auteur, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
I always read it. That's a really good one. Can you, spoiler free, tell people what that particular story is about?
Yeah, you bet. So that's a story set in a video store. I worked in a Blockbuster shortly before video stores became a thing of the past, and I wanted to write.
Blockbuster left in the United States, though. So
I hear this. Where is it? Is it in like Alaska or something?
Yeah, it might be. I don't remember.
I can't remember.
I believe the one in Alaska just closed, but I don't know where the last one is.
There's one standing though, right?
Only there was some way we could look this up. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted to write something in that setting, I guess. And I was also reading a lot of Thomas Ligotti at the time. There's a story in Songs of a Dead Dreamer that really struck me, involving, I think it's 8mm footage. And of course, I'm forgetting the title of the story now. It was a combination of that combined with, I think, Kathy Koja's novel, The Cipher, is always clattering around somewhere in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was a combination of those influences and just wanting to pull from my experiences working in a video store, that environment.
It always seemed like to me, as long as your boss was cool, working in a video store would actually be pretty fun and relaxing. Or is that right or wrong?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I think I was 16 when I started there. I worked there until I was 17 or 18. And yeah, you work until 1 in the morning, which is fine when you're, a teenager. I didn't have a lot of other stuff going on. And I got 10 free rentals a week. And I would actually use all of those. So I just spent like years watching so many films.
That's a lot of movies.
It's a lot of movies. And I loved that. Yeah, it was a great environment. Super low pressure job. I loved it.
Did you, I don't want to date you or anything, but did you work there when there were DVDs or when there were VHS tapes?
This was DVD. Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah, but I do still have a VCR. I didn't get a DVD player until I was like 15, I think. So we stuck with it for a while.
Yeah. Well, I've got a 16-year-old kid who vaguely remembers our VHS from 2002, 2004.
Yeah.
I can remember in the 80s when the first VHS came home.
Yeah.
And it was the size of a small television. And, if you wanted to buy a movie, it was like $200.
I remember the VHS beta battle.
Oh, yeah.
You know why VHS won, right?
Porn.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, in the story, can you continue a little bit and then just stop short of a spoiler? This girl the protagonist is working with, starts talking to him about horror and, wants to show him some horror movies that she created.
Yeah, that's right. So he's always been fascinated by these films that she kind of alludes to that she has made. The story begins with a reference to cannibal holocaust, and that's kind of like ground zero for the story. So she's like, you think that's hardcore? You should see the films that I'm making. So I wanted to kind of start with that reference that I think is like a shorthand for what many people perceive as like the limitation of what horror can be. And I wanted her films to have that quality of like a snuff film, but without the violence necessarily. So there's something grotesque and there's like a violation or transgression of what we normally perceive. So I think that's where Ligotti comes in. And he is, let's say, ultimately changed by these films without giving anything away.
The thing that I found interesting about this story is it would have been very easy as the writer to just allude to what he was watching, that it was just so horrific, that it was so far beyond anything he's ever seen that drives him crazy and so forth. But you didn't do that. You actually described what was going on in the film, but yet I'm reading this and I'm thinking I still don't know everything that's going on in this film. You told just enough, when, like I say, it would have been easy to just imply. So
thank you. Yeah, that's, I guess, given that this is the Lovecraft eZine podcast, it makes sense to bring up like the way Lovecraft deals with this. And I always think of it as being like this double bind that a writer is in, because if you say it's too horrific to imagine, you run the risk of the reader saying, oh, you're just bluffing. You can't actually describe what it is.
Yeah,
and then if you over describe, then it can also ultimately spoil it, right? Because I think there is truth in saying that, like, what we imagine is in many ways worse.
Yeah, because no matter how horrifying it is, I should say generally, if you describe something, then it's not unknown anymore, and it makes it less fearful.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, I really love that story. Also enjoyed, just a few of these. I also enjoyed Sabbatical. Now, I want to read something from Sabbatical. People listening, you really need to get this book. I think this is a great little collection, and I'm surprised it's your first one.
Thank you.
Because it's good. Screaming doesn't help, he said, speaking barely above a whisper. Whether you're a young child yowling for candy, or you're among the hordes of slaughterhouse cattle swimming in their shit, whether you're one of the uncountable many awaiting the machetes of genocide, or you're chained up in the basement of a killer, it's always the same. Stars will collapse and new lights will prick through the sky, and screaming will not help. So I thought, okay, that is a little tiny bit nihilistic.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah, like a lot of these stories I wrote while I was doing my master's degree, and I was reading a lot of really pessimistic philosophy. I think I was dealing with like a lot of depression and anxiety myself, and the fiction became a way of like dealing with that, or expressing it, if not dealing with it. I'd say that's one of the probably bleakest and maybe most personal stories in the collection is Sabbatical. It's not like based on literal experience, but it lifts a lot from the way I was feeling and thinking at different points throughout my schooling, I guess.
Were you working on your dissertation at the time?
Yeah, I was writing my master's thesis on.
I figured.
Yeah. Yeah, I was writing on John Carpenter's film Prince of Darkness, actually.
Good choice.
It's my favorite. I love that film.
Yeah, and quite Lovecraftian. Absolutely.
And it's weird because what I would expect John Carpenter to cite like one of the more overtly cosmic Lovecraft stories as his main influence, but he says The Outsider was the story that he was most directly influenced by, which I found surprising, because that's such an enclosed kind of psychological story, like one of the earlier, maybe more Poe influenced, I'm guessing, of Lovecraft's works.
A lot of people have told me that was their very first Lovecraft story, and it really grabbed them, Yeah. So he might be talking about it from that standpoint, who knows?
Yeah, that's true too. That could be it. And it is one of those stories, like that final reveal, for me anyway, really sticks with me.
I won't go through the whole list here, but let's see. How many stories are in the book?
16.
16, right. A New Kind of Drug, which is the third story. Can you talk about that one a little bit, spoiler free?
Yeah. So
I don't know if is it possible to talk about that one spoiler free? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I'll try my best. So it's about these two young men who meet kind of by happenstance. They're classmates. They've never really connected in the past. One of the young men tells the other one to come over to his place one day. He has something in his shed he wants to show him. He refers to it as a drug, but it's this small kind of helpless creature that he hides underneath a tarp. He basically keeps it prisoner. And you learn that through forces of coercion, this creature can transport the taker into some kind of transcendent or extrasensory experience. So he refers to it as a drug trip, but it's only possible to make it happen by coercing this little thing.
Yeah.
And the drug trip goes horribly awry.
Yeah. It's mayhem, mayhem, mayhem.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I won't list every story, but I also wanted to mention Long Man. Really like that one too.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's the genesis of that story?
Longman and the final story in the collection, Remembering Absence, both actually came away from a novel idea that I had that I ended up abandoning. It was going to be entirely written from the perspective of a ghost who's investigating the untimely death of his cousin. And the novel was going to involve the Longman's kind of implication in this murder. But for a number of reasons, the novel ended up kind of spiraling out of my control, and I ended up shaving off those two pieces. They were both a lot different, especially Longman when I first submitted them. Longman kind of had a section of the investigation scene, but the editor of Creepy Campfire Stories, which is where it was originally published, said she was really interested in this Longman character, and she was wondering if I could kind of write a mythology for it, basically. So that one was kind of suggested by editors' comments, more or less. And it ended up turning into its own standalone thing.
Yeah, a good editor can help a lot. Basically, this kid sees this long man, maybe, I don't know, he reminds him of Slender Man, but this long man in his mirror at age 6, and it kind of haunts him, and I won't say anything more about the story after that, but yeah, it was very well done.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So these stories are all really well crafted. It's kind of surprising that this is your first publication in this regard, but where were these printed before? What sort of venues have you been in? Because I guess if you're studying, writers' art at the university, maybe it's not so surprising, but it's usually people have been printing, stories for a long time to come up with something like this.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. I started, to be fair, I did self-publish a collection of poetry and kind of like weird prose pieces with a friend of mine in during my undergraduate degree. And I'm quite embarrassed with that book. So that came before Darkest Hour. Like, I think my friends' contributions are good, but looking back at my stuff and that, I think it's just like these kind of cheap attempts at shock, and hopefully Darkest Hours goes beyond that. But I published in Dark Views, rest in peace, a couple of those stories beforehand, Lucio Schluter and Hare. Turn to Ash did a promotional copy called Volume 0 before Volume 1, and that's where the auteur was originally published. And then Straylight Literary Arts magazine, Vague Visages. There was a very short-lived magazine called Double Feature that did sci-fi and horror, and they published a story called Mired. So kind of all over the place, I guess. Dark Moon Digest published Sabbatical. So just kind of and my first story I published was Long Man, and that was published in an anthology called Creepy Campfire Stories for Grown-Ups.
So most of these, unless you're really assiduous, none of us probably would have ever come across them before, realistically. So this is quite a different. How's the experience been for you?
It's really exciting. There he's got Turn to Ash volumes. Is that volume?
Some of us have come across this before. Yeah, I've got Volume 0 and Volume 1 of Turn to Ash.
Cool.
Show off.
It does exist. It's super exciting. I was thrilled that Unnerving took it on, and thankfully people seem to be really liking it. You never know how people will react. I was actually kind of expecting to get more divisive reactions, but thankfully people have been seem to be enjoying it. So it's been great. I'm super happy that it's out in the world.
Well, like I said a few minutes ago, there's nihilism all through the book, all through the stories. Is that kind of your part of your personal philosophy, or is that just something that yeah, I guess that's the question.
That's a really good question. I was raised Catholic, so I feel like in some indirect way that feeds into the way I view the world. And I think Catholicism is absolutely a faith driven by guilt, and I think there's a lot of dread in Catholicism too. I'd say I'm a pessimistic person, but I strive to be more optimistic.
So you don't so much as worship your God as mourn him.
yeah, for sure. And it's weird. Like there was a sense of like transgressing when I was writing this collection, because I was also reading a lot of stuff to do with Satanism, like reading the Satanic Bible and stuff for my thesis. And I think there's something fun about that, but also it does feel a little dangerous when you're raised Catholic. It affects your worldview in that way, I guess.
Okay. Why write? What started you on this journey of becoming a writer?
I think like a lot of people who write, I just always did it. Like when other kids were out playing kick the can or football, a lot of the time I was inside. Like I wrote my first novel when I was, I think 12. And it was this really unreadable ripoff of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings that I called Long Ago. So it was like a very direct ripoff of Star Wars. Yeah, and I wrote stories before that. A lot of them were really gruesome too. And my parents were like, "Where the fuck is he getting this from?" Like, and they were like pretty protective. I didn't see a lot of stuff, so I don't know. It's just somewhere in my brain. It's always been there.
Rick, you have a question?
Yeah, Mike, you're very, I always try to get a feel for what generation the guest belongs to. You're very useful looking. How old are you?
I'm 28 years old, and thank you for saying that.
And the other
was like 17.
And related to that, I try to get a feel for like what horror movie as a kid influenced you, because like people of my generation, I was born in 1955. People of my generation and Joe Pulver's generation, and we had a guest the last time, well, not the same age. We also saw Abbott Costello Meets Frankenstein. What movie as a kid kind of got you into horror?
Oh man, one of the pivotal ones that I remember was Pet Sematary. I think I saw that when I was like 12 years old. Believe it or not, Bride of Chucky actually was a big one for me. I think I saw that around the same time when I was about 12. The Exorcist I saw very young as well. All three of those definitely were kind of like gateway films for me, I guess. And then like, of course, I ended up exploring a lot of the older stuff when I got older. So I love like the Terrence Fisher, Hammer films. I love Carpenter, Tobe Hooper, that whole generation, Sergio Martino. Like I love all of it, and horror films for sure are big influences on me. Probably as much as horror fiction have had a big influence on my writing.
Did the video store give you access to all those others?
Absolutely. Like I said, I got 10 free rentals a week. So like, I feel like I kind of went away from horror for a bit. Around the time I worked at Blockbuster, I actually wasn't so much into horror. I was into that as like a preteen, and then when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, I thought I was maybe above it or something. I don't know what the hell happened. But I would watch like a lot of foreign films and art house films and stuff like that. And then I got older and I realized that horror films are where it's at. And now that's like all I watch.
Since you're obviously in the Universal horror, since you have Bride of Frankenstein behind you.
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend something, which actually we didn't discuss before the podcast. There is a series of books published by an author named Philip J. Riley, which is shooting scripts for the original Universal horror movies.
Okay.
And he's got an unmade movie called The Wolfman versus Dracula.
No way.
Which is actually a sequel to House of Frankenstein, and explains how Lon Chaney Jr. survived the silver bullet in House of Frankenstein.
Oh, wow. I've got to read this. I actually like House of Frankenstein. I know it's kind of sloppy, but I like it a lot.
Well, those House of movies are kind of fun, but compared to having, they didn't really know how to integrate Dracula into the movies.
Yeah, that's a good point. It almost feels like a different film. Yeah, it almost feels like it's tacked on to the beginning, I guess.
Yeah, it isn't until the Abbott and Costello movie, ironically, where Dracula makes sense interfacing as those two monsters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which is always very odd.
Yeah.
And we were also talking before the show, there is a great book called It's Alive, The Cinema History of the Frankenstein Movies by an author named Mank, M-A-N-K. I think it's something like George William Mank or Gregory William Mank. And we were discussing how Frankenstein meets the Wolfman that had been cut severely from the original version, which had Bela Lugosi talking as a monster. If you want to know how it originally connected the Ghost of Frankenstein, read this book.
Yeah, I have to look that up.
Well, similar to Rick's question about horror movies that inspired you, what are some of the first horror books that come to mind that inspired you? Or that you really enjoyed?
Good question. I think, again, actually, the novel of Pet Sematary I read really young, and then I sought out the film afterward. I remember I was suspended from school when I think I was 12 or 13. I don't remember how old, but I was supposed to be doing school readings. And I had a copy of Pet Sematary with me. So I would just read that all day. And I think it was like hidden inside of my biology textbook or something. So I have like really fond memories of that book. And I read Dreamcatcher around the same time, also by King. Those were two of the earliest ones. I also grew up.
So wait. You're suspended from school. There's a story there.
I think the final offense that I was suspended for was not that interesting. It was like a cumulative thing. I was always in trouble. I think the final straw was there was this alley near our school where people would throw out like furniture and stuff like that for some reason. And some friends of mine and I took a couch and put it on a guy's doorstep and rang the bell a bunch of times and ran to school. This guy lived like 30 feet from the school. So he chased us onto the schoolyard. The principal was outside and immediately knew it was me, and I was fucked. So that was it.
So it wasn't you sacrificing one of your fellow students or anything like that? So
No. That was grade 10. I didn't do that in junior high.
He never got caught.
Never got caught. Yeah.
Not as far as you know.
Exactly.
I didn't do that, as far as you know.
A new kind of drug. That's autobiographical.
Were you in Catholic school or public school?
Catholic school, yeah, all the way through.
I've been that route too.
I think it like brings out the worst in kids. I really do. Like we were just like out of control, or maybe I should just speak for myself. I was out of control, and I'm going to blame it on Catholic school.
I know so many lapsed Catholics who went to Catholic school.
Yeah. Well, you brought up with this great sense of guilt.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you think you write for yourself mainly, or for the reader, or both as you write?
I think I always start writing things that interest me, because I think if it doesn't interest me, no one else is going to care to read it. So I usually my stuff, although it's not literally personal, it is quite personal in terms of the feeling behind it, or a certain attitude or worldview I'm trying to approach. So I have to write. Yeah, I have to write from a personal place. Maybe that's to my disadvantage. I think a lot of times I have difficulty like finding a home for my stories because I don't think about market enough. I'm not sure. That's something I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I'd say you're doing fine. These are very enjoyable stories.
Thank you.
So, we talked about books that inspired you when you were a kid. What are some of your favorite books now, or what are you reading, or some of your favorite writers right now? However you want to answer that question.
I'd say like in addition to Stephen King, the writers who have influenced me the most would be, I brought up Kathy Koja earlier. Right. Hubert Selby Jr. was a big gateway writer for me. But I also, Herman Melville is probably my favorite writer. I love Virginia Woolf, William Faulkner. In terms of working writers, I love Gwendolyn Keist, S.P. Miskowski, Rob Dunbar. Who else is there? There's someone I went to who was in my master's program named Joshua Whitehead. He wrote a book called Full Metal and Digiqueer, which was like the most radical experimental poetry collection. I thought that was amazing. And Eden Robinson is another one. Kind of all over the map, I guess.
We've had Kathy Koja and Gwendolyn Keist and SP, of course, many times on the show. So you ever want to go back and listen to those interviews, they're out there. So
actually, yeah, I watched the Gwendolyn and
oh, did you? Good.
I love them. Yeah, they're great interviews. So
yeah. I think she's got a new book out too, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
The Rust Maidens?
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think,
but,
yeah.
But, yeah, and she's got a story that's going to be in Autumn Cthulhu too. Really, really great story. So, yeah, she's a very good writer.
She's brilliant. Like, when I read End Her Smile and Tether of the Universe, I just thought this is one of the best debut collections I've read in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, I ask a couple questions. I usually ask this question of every writer, and here's a question before I ask that I think I want to start adding, which is this: do you have an opinion on what's if you could only read one book in the world, what would you recommend?
Oh man. Like you can reread it though. You can revisit it.
Oh sure.
Damn. I'm gonna go with poetry because I feel like poetry. Maybe I'd go with Songs of Innocence and of Experience by William Blake because it also has the beautiful illustrations, so you can enjoy it on both levels. And as someone who's like kind of a visual person, and I just think that's an amazing book. But that's a really hard question.
Yeah,
it's a good question.
It probably puts people on the spot, I'm guessing. Mine would be Demon Haunted World, but I've had time to think about it. So, by Carl Sagan.
I haven't read that yet. I have to read that.
Yeah, it's nonfiction, but it's just a book that everyone should read. So, especially today. What do you consider personally to be success as a writer?
I think like even those first few moments when someone told me that they read and enjoyed my book were big like milestones for me, that someone sought it out, read it, and gave me like their thoughts on it. I think a writer should stay true to themselves, or like be sincere. I think that's important to be successful as a writer. But then again, there are probably writers who are insincere and write solely for market, and they put out like really good fiction. So I think it comes down to personal definition. For me,
yeah, definitely. I get all kinds of different answers.
Yeah. I don't know what it is for me yet. I think I'm still figuring that out as well. Maybe I'll know once it happens. Maybe I'll never actually feel as successful as I want to, and that's what will keep me going. Like I keep wanting to accomplish something more or something better.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you do when you're not writing?
Right now, I'm working a part-time job as a communications and marketing assistant at the Taylor Institute for Teaching and Learning, which is on the campus at the University of Calgary. So I do like copy editing there and write stories for the university newspaper and run their social media pages and stuff like that. And when I'm not doing one of those things, right now I'm getting ready for, my fiance and I are getting married in October. So I'm busy with that and studying for the GRE because I might be studying in the US.
Why are you shaking your head, Pete?
I don't know.
You better hope Mandy doesn't watch this episode. I'm sorry, Mike. Go on. It sounds like you're keeping really busy when you're not writing.
Yeah, and like I have to squeeze the writing in these days. So I'm waking up at 5 in the morning, Monday to Friday, to write for an hour before I get ready for work. So yeah, I don't know. I'm busy all the time these days, but I think it'll slow down in the fall.
It's very interesting that you say that. There's a writer that we all know well named Mike Griffith. He's got some well-respected story collections out. And if you ever go to conventions with him, it's like he'll tell you, like, you may be like in a group of people, you're all hanging out or going to the bar, and he says, well, got to work. And what he means is that's his writing time, and he takes this very seriously, a couple hours a day, because that's not his full-time job. You know, not many people can do that, but he is extremely dedicated in like blocking out that span of time to actually write. It's like it's one of his major priorities, because otherwise it's just very easy to fritter that away, and then you lose what you're really interested in.
That's such a good point. Yeah, that's exactly what I found. As it was like, unless I set aside that hour in the morning, I wasn't, you know, I would squeeze out 250 words an evening maybe, and it would be really hard to do because by the end of the day you're exhausted. But when I wake up at 5 in the morning, I feel a little bit loopy, but I don't even look at my phone. I just pour myself a cup of coffee and I just zone into the writing. And that hour is just like, it's incredibly valuable to me to have that, because you're right. Otherwise the time doesn't just appear. You have to make the time, I think.
Well, then, you know, I'm sure you've had that feeling that no matter what you accomplish or don't get done that day, you still got your hour of writing in, no matter what.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. It's a good way to start the day.
Speaking of Mike Griffin, I've been meaning to mention this. He's got a new book too, just for everyone listening. It's called The Human Alchemy by Michael Griffin. And I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I wanted to let people know about it. So, so you said, so you're writing an hour a day now. What's next for you? Are you working on another collection? Are you working on a novel? What's coming up next?
Yeah, I'm working on a novel right now that I've been doing research for a while. So I'm like just shy of 10,000 words into that right now. Yeah, I kind of wanted to take a break from short fiction for a while. I feel like it's a different process working on a novel, and you can really get lost in it, not worry about like the submissions process and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been nice to kind of shift gears for a bit. So
10,000 words. Come on, you can't just leave us. I'm working on a novel. Give us a thumbnail sketch or something.
So it's a novel. Originally, I was going to set it in the 1980s and 1990s, around that era of satanic panic. Again, I was doing some research into that kind of like sociological phenomenon for my thesis, and I'm actually situating it in a contemporary setting now, but it has that backdrop, the kind of residual effects of satanic panic, and it involves a traveling haunted house attraction. And ultimately, what is really frightening in the novel is going to be much, much more terrifying than Satanism, which we've ultimately discovered is not very scary at all. But I want to play on that fear and that kind of like period of, it was like the longest running criminal trial in the history of the United States legal system, that daycare trial. So I want to like delve into what happened there and what the residual impact of that has been on cultural attitudes, I guess. And also just write a fun haunted house story.
When do you anticipate being finished, or have you thought that far ahead yet?
Hopefully by early 2019, if all goes according to plan, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
As long as your new wife says it's okay.
She's great. She's super supportive, and she wakes up at 5 with me, and
That's
she does
good.
she does her own thing, and yeah, which makes it makes it a lot easier because we both have that hour to just like do our thing.
Well, again, the name of the collection is Darkest Hours by Mike Thorn. It's available in print and for Kindle, and if you happen to be a member of Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. So yeah, definitely check it out. So really great first collection, Mike. I enjoyed reading it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so I think you said you're going to stick around with us for other topics. Rick, do you want to talk about Strange Angel real quick? You've mentioned it several times, and I don't think on air.
Okay, Strange Angel is on CBS All Access. It's an original series about a guy, and now that you mentioned me, I blank out his name. His first name was Jack, who historically was a pioneer in the development of rocket fuel. And in the 1930s, he got involved with Aleister Crowley-style Satanism. And the show, set in California in the beginning of the 1930s, is right now borderline supernatural. It's also interesting from a writer's perspective. It's getting into pulp novels. The last episode had brought in Jack Williamson's Darker Than You Think, a werewolf novel that was published in Unknown magazine in 1940, though they shifted its publication in 1939 for dramatic reasons. But it's a very good series, and I recommend it.
Is it a mini-series, or is it going to be a continuing series?
It looks like it's going to be a regular series. Probably, I think it'll be like 10 episodes per year.
Yeah.
Because the protagonist lived until 1952, and we're in 1939 right now.
Matt, can we talk about your movie choice for last night?
Now, listen here.
Yeah, we're gonna get you on this one.
Well, it's not. I think it's a lot. You've got to think about how this movie came about. The director is of Serbian
descent. Well, first tell the people what the name of the movie. It's Evolution.
Something about hippopotamuses or something.
Evolution, not the David Duchovny one. That's a whole nother story. We'll get into that later.
Okay, this is a movie from 2 years ago. This woman, director, her husband also makes films, but she's not very prolific. She was born in the early 60s, and she graduated from this very prestigious French cinema, and she likes to make avant-garde type movies and movies that are more about mood. And if you get a bunch of, I don't know, Philistines who demand action and script and shit.
That's not my complaint with the movie.
No, I felt like Fritz Lang watching this movie. Why does this director have against action?
There were some very long takes.
But I didn't mind that. It was basically just a strange atmospheric piece of some young boys who are essentially being held captive and told they're sick in this hospital by the seashore.
On an island, in fact.
Yeah, and the nurses are all the only other people on the island, and they're all very creepy, and there's one for each boy. And it turns out they're trying to induce some new kind of life form.
It's very enzymathy.
Right, and so I liked the cinematography. I liked the atmospheric nature of it. But I can see why, like, some people who like demand that something happens in their movies might not like it.
Occasionally would be nice, yeah. Just occasionally. So it's a thumbs up for you. Is it a thumbs up or thumbs down from you, Rick?
Thumbs down, unfortunately.
Okay.
I couldn't get past the first 15 minutes of it.
There you go.
It would have been.
And this guy watches some really dumb movies sometimes.
Yeah, it would have been a good half-hour episode of a TV series. It was too long.
Well, it's just like you're looking at a take and it goes on for like 60 seconds of nothing happening. At one point, there's a close-up of an eyeball for like 60 seconds. It's you could have cut. Edit, people, edit.
I took the hit for you guys a couple years ago.
No, wait, hang on. It's like it wasn't a shot of an eyeball. It was a shot of a starfish appendage putting little suction cups onto the eyeball. So it's not like you're just looking at an eyeball.
That was the start of it, yeah.
Can I recommend a fun movie for movie night?
Yeah, and then you can talk after that.
Evolution, the sequel.
No, I don't know if any of you have ever seen Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter.
Oh, yes.
But if you want to see a Hammer movie, you want to see, it's basically Hammer meets the British TV series with Patrick McNeely, Avengers, is the best way I can describe it. You want to see a nice, a good, lighthearted vampire movie, which had some very original concepts in it, too.
And isn't that what we all want? A light-hearted vampire movie?
That's my favorite Hammer film.
Yeah, it's mine too. Of all the Hammer movies, that's the one I watch over and over again.
Look, Fright Night is a great lighthearted vampire film.
Yeah, you got me. You got me.
Well, this is sort of Hammer's version of Fright Night, is the best way I can describe it.
So
it's apparently an Amazon video for $3.99. So
what's the title again? I missed it.
Captain Kronos. That's Kronos with a K. Vampire.
Okay. All right.
And it has nothing to do with Klingons, right?
Right. Nothing to do with Klingons.
Is there time travel? It's Captain Kronos.
Originally, there was supposed to be.
If the series had continued, he was going to turn out to be an immortal. It was supposed to be the first in the series.
Right.
Okay.
And it's got Caroline Munro in it.
Oh, hubba hubba.
Which is reason enough to watch it.
Was one of the great horror stars of the 70s. So that it's probably a best movie. And I would say probably a best performance. He really does a good job in that, besides looking gorgeous. He actually has a role with some substance to it.
No, Kelly was telling us that he took a hit for us.
Yes. What was this hit, Kelly?
Oh, a couple years ago when I first reviewed Evolution, and I told you guys, well, actually, I remember exactly how it went down. Mike, I told you like on Wednesday that I saw Evolution, and you said, great, we can talk about it on Sunday. And then Sunday you said, Kelly, you saw Evolution. And I said, I did. And I had zero memory of it 2 days later.
But isn't that your typical Saturday night?
Yeah, but this was a Tuesday, Matt. I'm differentiating.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So
I just noticed on Amazon, not Amazon, Netflix, The Signal is suddenly instant, which I really enjoyed when I saw it the first time. So I might watch it again. And then
which The Signal?
It's about the teenage kid who gets exposed to something, and then they take him into custody. And
Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. Okay. And the other one, I think it's called In Her Skin, with Scarlett Johansson as the alien, which has some of the most disturbing scenes I've ever seen in a film. But yeah.
Well, the real tragedy of all this is that we were going to watch The Other Evolution with David Duchovny, which is an enjoyable, dumb film. Rabbit wouldn't let me do it. There was some kind of glitch. So I said, okay, I know Matt Carpenter meant The Other Evolution anyway. I'll buy that real quick on Amazon and we'll watch it. Thoroughly did not like this film. And then I find out it's on Netflix. I wasted $4.
That was the best part.
It's not the $4. It's the principle of the thing. You don't pay for a movie if it's on Netflix. So.
But that made the movie so much better. I mean.
Do you need my address to write that check? Cashier's check, if you don't mind. All right, so we've got three. There's three new trailers that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Glass, and then there's also Shazam and Aquaman. Now, everybody knows I'm a big DC fan. Shazam looks great. I think Aquaman could possibly be great. But you know what? I watched the Glass trailer 3 times. I'm really looking forward to this film. Did you guys see it?
Yeah, I've seen that. That looks really good.
I've seen it, and even though I haven't seen any of the 2 movies that it's a sequel to involved, it does look great.
Yeah. You haven't seen Unbreakable?
Nope.
You gotta watch Unbreakable, Rick.
That's going to be your new favorite movie.
Yeah. All right, I'll get around to it.
It's Unbreakable, and then what was it?
Split is the other one.
Split, yes. I don't know. I wouldn't watch Split twice, but
You will now.
Split has a really great third act, which is sometimes enough to get you past. But now that it's streaming, I think you can just fast forward to that third act.
Yeah.
And somebody said we needed fast forward for Revolution last night.
Well, then it would have just been a half-hour episode of a TV show.
It reminds me of the Rick Moranis character from Ghostbusters. You know, I had a half-hour workout, but I speeded it up to 10 minutes. It was great, great exercise.
Poor Mike is looking at us like, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Mike's like, I should have left.
I'm excited for Glass. I'm excited for Glass.
Okay, why are you excited for Glass? Let's get some real input here.
God, Evolution.
I have not seen Evolution, so I haven't seen the Duchovny version either. Actually, I love Shyamalan.
That's a fun movie. Yeah,
is it good?
It's fun. I mean, it's not deep or anything.
The fact that the universe is saved by shampoo products. And I own 5 copies of this damn film.
In case you want to watch it more than once?
Yes.
Jesus, are you in it or something?
No, it's just over the years, people have come and gone from my life, and they've always left their copies of Evolution behind.
So
God,
wait. Does Mandy have a private copy that she keeps on a shelf somewhere?
She brought her own copy into this house. Yes.
All right.
Do we want to mention the Godzilla?
I'm excited about that. That was a good trailer.
Well, hang on. I'm in a movie sort of that I don't even own a copy of it, much less 5. I'm the voice on the answering machine of Call Girl of Cthulhu. That's what it was.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
Well, where can we find this movie?
I don't know. Google it. Actually, it was very successful, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen it.
Relative to what?
Yeah. Well, everyone was covering it when it came out. I know that.
The reason we could bring up Godzilla is it had a Lovecraftian element to it.
It did.
It talked about the monsters as the original rulers of Earth, the basis for the legend of the Titans.
What are we talking about? There's a new Godzilla movie, or what?
Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
It's going to have the return of Godzilla with Mothra, Rodan, and Ghidorah, also known as Ghidra.
Oh, I'll have to watch that trailer.
Yeah, so it's San Diego Comic-Con this weekend, so all these trailers are being spoon-fed to us this weekend.
Right.
But it's a little frustrating, though I can understand why. You only get to see a faint shadow of Ghidorah. You get some pretty decent shots of Rodan, though, I thought. At least he didn't. They hid parts of him, but it looked awesome from what I saw.
Yeah, and he does explode out from a volcano. So,
and I think the shadow flying over the city was just an incredible shot. And I'm trying to figure out Mothra.
Rick, I think it's going to be visually beautiful, but that Godzilla movie, the last Godzilla movie, was just not a great movie. And I'm worried that they're going to have great visuals and not much else.
Certainly not if you stack it up against Evolution, but I think if you hold it on its own, it's not too shabby. I really like that last Godzilla movie.
You're going to rip my
Kelly, you're always holding your own. Isn't it?
No, it's true. But it's true. Holding my own right now.
The complaint that everybody had against the first Godzilla movie is they kept withholding the monster from us. If you compare
but that worked, didn't it? I mean, I loved that. All the shots we got to see of Godzilla felt like we were seeing it from a human perspective. From
worked on Jaws, I know that.
Well, when we got him at the end, it was great, but it was a little frustrating. I'm just saying, I still recommend the movie, but I'm just saying they didn't make that mistake in Kong of Skull Island.
Well,
that one, I got the monster right away, and I was glad for it.
I think Godzilla King of Monsters is due out in 2019. And then Godzilla versus Kong is 2020.
My guess is we'll see a little teaser of Kong in this King of the Monsters because they have said that all of the monsters that are involved in the movie have not been shown in the trailer yet.
Well,
so
also
that there are more monsters.
The movie at the movie that's the follow up to this is going to be a new King Kong versus Godzilla.
Right.
Well, John Langen's going to be all over this. I know that. He's a big Godzilla fan.
Well, it's just that, I was a kid when the first King Kong versus Godzilla, and I loved it as a kid, but when you later saw it as an adult, you go, oh, they're really just guys in suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You realize how crummy the special effects were. By this time, you have appreciated Willis O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, getting back to the superhero movies. Are you looking forward to Glass, Kelly?
I'm hopeful. I didn't love Split, but I really liked that end act, the third act, and I loved McAvoy's performance. Boy, I thought he was just brilliant in that.
Yeah.
But I thought that the story was a little weak and had all sorts of problems. Having said that, I have been waiting for, not to spoil Split, but I was kind of until that one scene that we all know happened at the very end, and then I wanted to stand up in the theater and go, "Oh my God, yes!"
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this. I've wanted a sequel to Unbreakable forever. I've always thought that was Shyamalan's best film. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Here's what I know. Shyamalan did a couple of really good movies and then a string of really shitty movies, and he has had one film that is so-so since then, and that is Split. And everyone seems to think this is like a comeback of some kind. Well, one film that's okay doesn't mean it's a comeback, and I'm really afraid this next one is just going to be another The Visit or Airbender or...
The thing is, he caught lightning with his first movie.
Yeah.
A brilliant capstone to anyone's career, and it was his first movie. And then Unbreakable, to my view, it was enjoyably okay. I don't think it was his... I thought The Sixth Sense was just bloody brilliant, But after that, it's been... I mean, I've watched some of his movies, like The Happening.
Woof.
Yeah. Ooh, no.
Ironically named, huh?
What about that mermaid movie? What was that called?
Lady in the Water, Lady in the Water, which I didn't hate, but only because I went to film school and everything he was talking about was structure, and so I latched onto that. But if you're not into film structure, that movie is probably horrible.
The Village was just dreadful.
Let me stop you there. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination, but I've actually watched it a couple times and enjoyed it. There are elements to it, the mythology, the I don't know quite how to put this. All the tenants in this apartment complex sort of band together and help each other, so on and so forth. That's kind of neat. I'm not.
It's a love letter to Joseph Campbell.
Well, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's not a great movie or anything.
So anyhow, that's my fear, is that this, I'm really looking forward to this. I think Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson and McAvoy together, that makes for an exciting film no matter what. So it's really his movie to fuck up at this point.
Well, you got three absolutely fantastic actors in it, so if it's fucked, it's not going to be their fault.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Always the editor's fault.
And the director gets all the credit when the editor does his job right. Well, so how did you guys feel about Shazam and Aquaman?
Now, Shazam, I'm super excited for. I've always felt like these superhero characters should only be given the respect that they deserve, which for people in spandex should not be that much respect. And the fact that I feel like they've gotten the mood of this story completely right. Shazam was always a 10-year-old boy in the body of a superhero, and that's exactly what this film looks like it's supposed to be. I'm all in.
You know what it reminds me of? Big.
Yes, it should. It should feel like big.
Right? Yeah.
The last lines in the trailer. Sup, I'm a superhero.
Right. I saw someone go, I don't like this. He seems like a complete asshole superhero. I'm like, let me think. A 10-year-old who can, fly, is bulletproof, all this stuff. Yes, he's going to be an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it is in the same universe, by the way. So
it's being played as it looks pretty campy, but the character for a long time was pure camp. And
yeah.
Oh yeah, the big cheese they called him.
So
I guess the villain's going to be Dr. Sivana from what it looked like.
Oh, perfect. I can't wait to see how they do this.
We just had, I'm trying to think, who is the actor who played Sinestro in Green Lantern?
Mark Strong.
Yeah, Mark Strong is playing a bald villain, so I said he must be Sivana.
Wow, okay. I wouldn't have gone that direction, but, I wouldn't have thought the guy from Chuck would make a good Shazam either, and I thought he looked great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where I've seen him.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that you look at it and it's like people aren't proportioned that way. But that's part of the charm.
Right.
This is almost like this is what a 10-year-old imagines a superhero is going to be look like.
I'm very hopeful for this. And I thought Aquaman looked fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had a little bit of Harry Potter to it.
Yeah.
Google Translate glitch predicts the second coming of Christ. So apparently if you if you go to Google Translate and you type the word dog over and over and over again, pretty soon you'll get Doomsday Clock is 3 minutes at 12. We are experiencing characters and a dramatic development in the world which indicate that we are approaching the end times and Jesus' return. You can try this out for yourself, kids. So,
by the way,
I think Google's AI has finally become sentient and is fucking with us.
Mike, did you see the trailer for Titans?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Thank you for bringing that up.
No, why did you have to bring it up? Why?
Because of Robin's intriguing little comment.
Yeah, I blocked it out. So
it looks like it could be good, but I don't understand the fuck Batman thing. So, and again, as I'm watching this trailer, I'm thinking, why can there never be? A Batman series would be perfect for Netflix or Amazon Prime. Done right.
Well, my kids were young. I watched the Teen Titan cartoon series. It was really good.
This looks a little darker.
Yeah, I don't know why couldn't they make it in the same kind of corny, kind of joyful, kind of fun characters. I mean, I just don't know why they have to do that.
We're talking about this Titans trailer that just dropped. That he says "fuck Batman" in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, the real question is this in the movie universe too, or is this a separate universe?
Probably separate. They're now I think they're no longer calling it the DC Extended Universe. It's now called Worlds of DC.
I think that's smart. Keep them all separate.
Because the Joker movie is going to be separate, and I think because...
Oh, yeah, there's going to be a Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker.
Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was what's his name from the Suicide Squad, Jared Leto.
No, he's not going to be...
It's a different Joker. Try and keep up.
He's actually... It's going to be...
to the left of me, clowns on the right.
Sony's gonna make a...
Here I am, stuck in the middle.
Sony is going to make a Morbius the Living Vampire movie since he's technically a Spider-Man character with Jared Leto.
Well, I like the idea of Joaquin Phoenix. I think he's a great actor.
He is, yeah.
But it's in it. They're separating that from all their other superhero movies.
All right, headline. Joss Whedon is rebooting Buffy with a black actress as the Slayer. Reboot of rebooting Buffy. How do we feel about that, Rick?
Well, reboots are reboots. We'll see how it works.
Yeah.
Everybody's scared to talk about this one.
I'm not scared. Why would you be scared to talk about it?
Here's why I think we were supposed to love Buffy, because the character was a privileged white girl who was kind of dopey, who grows into this badass that we can all root for.
Yeah.
We don't like her when we meet her. Are they going to somehow do that again? And if so, how? And are the elements of privilege still going to be there? Are they going to hold any weight now? You know, I would have much rather seen this as a as some kind of spiritual sequel with new characters, and maybe, you know, what's Anthony Head doing? He'd like a paycheck again, right? I'd love to see Giles back.
Hey, wait a sec. Kelly, did you ever read the graphic novel Frey by
yes.
Now, why couldn't they have, it doesn't matter who you put in the actress. I mean, they could have put this person as Frey, then they would have had a whole new world to play with that they could have done things with.
I agree.
Or, you know, if the Slayer exists throughout history, he could have come up with a completely different, you know, like 20 years later, or, you know, like.
Well, you had multiple Slayers at the end of Buffy.
Right.
It could have been happening something that the forces of evil have slain them all, and there's just one left that gets born, or either slain or imprisoned. So the real Buffy could be imprisoned somewhere if you later want to bring her back.
Yeah, that's my question though, Rick. Is this going to exist in that same universe, or is it a total reboot?
I don't know. So I would like the idea that it would be a different Slayer who just happens to also be named Buffy. or maybe, you know, she gets recruited by Giles and he keeps calling her Buffy and you can't understand why.
Out of everything that's crazy in that series, finding another girl named Buffy, I think, is a bridge too far for me.
Yeah, well, you know, I think Joss Whedon's trying to prove he's a feminist again. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are we all okay with Joss again? It's so hard to keep track.
I think he's a fucking hypocrite, if you want my opinion, but that's just me. Well, no, it isn't just me. A lot of people over the last year have come to that conclusion.
What did Josh do that was wrong? I missed something.
Apparently he was cheating on his wife constantly, and I don't know if he was physically abusive, but mentally abusive to her.
Was wishing he wasn't married so he could go after all the women that were worshiping at his feet when Buffy got successful. That was another thing. Yeah, and you know, before all this, it's you know, firing Charisma Carpenter from the show because she got pregnant. Come on, you're not a feminist, man. You know.
So. Anyway, they were able to work that into very well into Angel. The whole pregnancy.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that she got fired. I thought she left. Because
the internet is pretty mum on it, but yeah, let me say that's a rumor that she got fired.
I've heard that rumor.
Sorry?
I've heard that rumor, yes.
Yeah. And, you know, quotes from Whedon himself, like he should have hired more female directors and things. He didn't do enough, that kind of thing. If you're going to stick this feminist label on yourself, maybe you should actually be one, you know? So anyway, I probably just lost half my audience.
Oh, well, let's get into James Gunn being fired.
Oh, right.
Unfortunately, but he did, you know, you can't blame Disney.
Well, I don't know. You know,
now you're going to lose all your viewers, Mike.
Yeah. Well, no, it's okay. So I can remember when both Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy were blue, and they transformed into wholesome people that made Disney movies.
But they're not doing that right now, and what we're dealing with is a certain period in time.
Okay, so I can remember when Disney made Song of the South.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can remember the scenes with the American Indians in Peter Pan.
So let me make sure I have this right. He's getting fired for some tweets that are roughly 10 years old, something like that.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Very ugly tweets, obviously meant in jest, but in very poor taste.
Right.
But I mean, if this is the direction we're heading, and let's just say, let's bring it up. So you mentioned Steve Martin or something like that. Well, he's not doing anything for Disney right now. And in this time right now, we will look at a person who has done something wrong 10 years ago and fire them. Well, he's not in the place to be fired because he's not doing anything. But I know that Wreck-It Ralph 2 is about to come out, and Sarah Silverman has said some pretty nasty things in tweets. And I love her because, you know, I am an adult and I can tell when someone is joking and when they're not. But if this is the precedent they're setting, I think it's a dangerous road to go down.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
Basically, all these people are people, and they're flawed. And like, let's first put them up on a pedestal, and then we can smash them down with the pedestal.
I think one of the real questions you have to answer is, if somebody's done something wrong in the past, have they changed? And if they have changed, you know, have they changed for the better? Excuse me. And if they have changed for the better, can we legitimately hold those things against them? You know? So.
I think that, I mean, in this case, Disney can hire and fire whoever they want, right? It's their toys.
Right. Sure.
Right.
So you got to just kind of sit back and go, well, all right. And you can sign petitions, you can do whatever you want. Disney has got to figure out what's right for them. It's the ones with, it's the Chris Hardwicks and stuff like that, where we don't really know what's going on. And a lot of people have come to his defense. I tend to believe what his ex-girlfriend wrote about him, but I also don't think that because he was a dick, he should lose his job.
Who is Chris Hardwick and what did he do?
Oh boy. Mike.
Well, it's
always with your finger on the pulse.
You know what? A lot of PC culture is lost on me.
Well, sometimes it's also with the person that suffered for his misdeeds. Because it's with talking Disney and Marvel. Right. Robert Downey Jr. obviously went through a tough period, but his career took a hit for it. So, you know, in the public's mind, he paid the penalty. So now was the time to forgive him.
It's so weird. I think that we just always rooted for Downey. Even at his lowest, for some reason, he was beloved. We all just were like, come on, man, get it together.
Well, he's such a great actor.
And maybe that's all it took, was
we
liked like, his characters.
In my generation, you got none of this on tape. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All the stupid stuff you may have done when you were a teenager in college or, you know, young, it's not on tape. So you can't go back and say, I'm going to judge you and your whole worth based on some ill-considered remarks from 15 years ago.
Well, there were a lot of Hollywood scandals that none of us knew about.
Right.
Just to use an example, since we were in Universal Horror, you may remember an actor named Lionel Atwill, who was a big thing in horror movies.
Yeah, I remember.
He was in a huge, it started out as a statutory rape case, which he got found not guilty, and then he was indicted for perjury, which he also was found not guilty for. But it was a huge scandal with Lionel Atwill in the 40s. It lasted about 3 or 4 years.
Wasn't it?
So he's still continuing to work, though.
Wasn't it Paul Lynn, whose gay lover accidentally fell out of their hotel room? Out the window? Yeah.
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I want Kelly to keep drinking his Zima and then elaborate on all this.
It's obviously, I've had too much. Completely derailed the show now.
Chris Hardwick is the guy from The Talking Dead, right?
Right, and he was a very blue comedian, but he got in trouble because an ex-girlfriend of his came out and said that he was incredibly abusive, not physically, but mentally abusive in their last relationship. And a lot of the things she said kind of rang true. Some people have come to his defense. A lot of the people who worked with him say, "Oh, that sounds about right to me." And so, in the end, though, what it sounds like is, okay, let's say worst case scenario, this guy is a massive asshole. Does that mean he's not allowed to make a living anymore? Because he has lost his job with AMC and with all the stuff he does. So, we're coming into some kind of this court of public opinion now.
Did you see the movie Quiz Show?
I never did see that. No.
Well, that actually was a good movie about how the game was rigged. And when it came out that it was rigged, the producers of that show were fired. And they were out in the Hollywood wilderness. And then like 10 or 15 years later, I guess people thought they had done their penance. And they created the new game show, The Joker's Wild. And they raked in millions. So like maybe there will be some public penance and then he'll be back in favor again. Who knows?
On a scale of evolution to 10, how good was Quiz Show, would you say?
Are you saying evolution to the Bo Derek movie 10?
-1, I think.
I hadn't gone there, but okay, sure.
It's well worth watching.
All right, I'll check that one out.
Well, speaking of movies, new Stephen King movie, Trapped, announced by Richard Chizmar, who's going to be on the show later this year. Stephen King and Richard Chizmar are working together on a new movie called Trapped. The pair recently worked together on the Castle Rock novella Gwendy's Button Box. This mysterious new film is written by Chizmar from a story by King and himself and will be directed by his son, Billy. So I don't think we know what it's about yet.
Directed by Chizmar's son, Billy. Is that what?
Yeah, I thought you might bring that. Yeah, I thought you might bring that up.
It's interesting, isn't it?
What had Richard Chizmar done in the past? That name sounds familiar.
He's the head of Cemetery Dance, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, it was. I don't know. Hell if I know.
Okay. It's just going to be a guest on.
Yeah. Well, that not till November.
Oh, okay. You got plenty of time to figure out who he is.
Yeah, I know who he is. I don't know who Chris Hardwick is, but I know who Richard Chizmar is.
I'm blaming it all on Ziva.
Let's see here. Oh yes, the Jeffrey Thomas's Punktown books. The RPG, I guess the Punktown game is now finally ready.
Yep.
So I wanted to get that out there.
Which means the secret project that ties into it will be not far behind.
What secret project? Are you vague booking right now?
I am.
Are they doing it as a Kickstarter or is it just coming out?
No, it's out. It's coming out. Not as a Kickstarter. So.
All right. Well, back to Stephen King. It looks like on Halloween or thereabouts, he's got a new book coming out. Looks like it may be a novella. I don't know. Called.
I haven't even read Outsider yet. Come on.
Well, this is not till October. You have plenty of time. It's called Elevation. Set in the fictional town of Castle Rock, Maine. So it's already on Amazon, so you can read about it and/or pre-order it. So
this all feels very much like he is taking advantage of, or perhaps helping the Castle Rock TV show by pumping this stuff up. You know, that premieres next weekend.
Oh, that soon?
Yep.
Oh, I can't wait.
And what is that on?
That is on Hulu. I'm less interested in it now that I've seen the latest couple of previews. So I'm still going to watch, and I'm hopeful, but it doesn't look like it was anything like we were hoping it was going to be.
Okay.
And it's not written by him. So what it is a series that takes place in the town where those things from his books have already taken place.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see you next weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rick.
I was wondering if it's after that. I'm blanking out the name of the movie, but the one that Max von Sydow did the
Needful Things.
Needful Things, which pretty much destroyed the town.
Right. So I wonder if they'll take that into consideration or not.
Well, that's a great segue to Hulu, which, Kelly, I'm sure you'll be overjoyed to hear that Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles series is headed to Hulu. Hulu will produce the TV adaptation of Anne Rice's iconic vampire novels. So,
look, those first two were iconic. Let's not take anything away from Interview from the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat. Those are excellent.
I enjoyed them. Yes, I'm just being funny.
But yeah, they have devolved into something less than that. So what is, I don't know anything about this. Is it starting at Interview with the Vampire and then going to follow it in a Game of Thrones kind of way?
I just told you everything I know.
Oh, fuck.
I think I just told you everything anybody knows.
Get Anne on the phone and let's find out what's going on. Because if that's the case, I'm not opposed to this.
She's not been returning my calls lately, I have to say.
Yeah, I'd watch this, at least the first couple of seasons, you know?
Yeah, I would too. I mean, yeah, go ahead, Pete.
I mean, let's face it, there has been, 4 or 5 television series based on teen and angsty vampires that have been produced, which all pretty much are the wicked stepchildren of Anne Rice.
Yeah, that's very true. I'm going to take back my snarky, iconic tone of voice there. Because, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Well, with that in mind...
Her vampires don't sparkle, man, so...
With that in mind, do we see maybe a backlash against this in the style of John Carter, where the stuff that she created has become so commonplace now that people maybe don't want to see that anymore, even though it's the originator?
Maybe.
I'm not feeling that, no. But so much depends on if the series is done right. That's really what it boils down to.
Right. If the first episode or 2 or 3 are really great,
yeah,
there's your buzz.
Right.
Looking forward to seeing Tom Cruise reprise his role.
You know what? When I first heard, he did a great job. When I first heard Tom Cruise was going to be playing Lestat, I thought, what the fuck?
We all did.
Yeah. And then I watched the movie and I was like, okay, I get it.
Remember, Anne Rice even took out like an ad, and
she was pissed
in the Hollywood Reporter saying, I was wrong. Holy shit, he's amazing. But yeah, she was not happy with the casting either.
No. So,
Mike,
yes.
Mike Thorn, if you could keep it down there a little bit and let somebody else talk for once.
Well, do you think? Never mind. Well, do you think that Anne had a wild weekend with Tom, and that's why she put out?
Whoa!
No, whoa! It was just we sometimes get actors who you think you would never think for the role and they do a great job. Michael Keaton as Batman comes to mind.
Exactly.
When I heard that, I go, "What are you kidding? He could never be a convincing."
Mr. Mom as Batman.
Johnny Dangerously as Batman.
And he worked as Batman. Besides giving a good performance as Batman, he was the most credible Bruce Wayne in this sense. I would, if he was a real guy and Gotham City was real, I would never suspect Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne, of being Batman. Everybody else, Val Kilmer, whoever, those are guys I would think, yeah, that guy has to be Batman.
Yeah, because he played it not unintelligent, but just kind of slightly ditzy. Where he would put his glass down in the wrong place and, stuff like that. Where it would fall and Alfred would catch it in time.
It was sort of a return to the Zorro type of misdirection, where the hero is kind of a goofball in his normal identity.
Yeah. Chaosium is teamed up with mobile games developer Meta Arcade and released a new interactive fiction offering for Apple phones, iOS, Cthulhu Chronicles. is the name of it, which pays homage to the eerie yet enchanting elder gods introduced to the world through the fictions of horror writer H.P. Lovecraft. And this game's getting good buzz and everything. I just wish I had an iPhone. They even sent me a thing to try it out, and I can't try it out because
They didn't send you an iPhone?
They didn't send me an iPhone to go with it, no. So it was nice of them to send me that. But, you know, it kind of raises an interesting question. Even if you have to delay the game, you know, and I'm not talking about this game in particular now. If you come out with Android, then all the Apple people go, damn it, you know, it's not fair that we didn't get it. And if you come out on the for Apple, all the Android people are unhappy. Why not wait until you're able to do both? Because these, you know, for example, Cthulhu Chronicles is going to do Android. This is going to be a while.
Well, they're doing it for money. If they have one set, they probably don't want to sit on the property. They probably have really poor cash flow. They need some kind of revenue. I mean, that's realistically. But my issue with Cthulhu Chronicles is I downloaded the app, and I've not really looked at it beyond much that, because there is a lot of in-game purchases of tickets or tokens that allow you to do things. And it seems to me like I haven't figured it out yet. Are you able to just flat out buy the game and play it through? Or do you have to do all these in-game purchases? And when I looked at that, I was extremely disenchanted. Regardless of, I haven't looked at the content, but it was like, you know, you're given so many tickets when you sign up for the free app or whatever they are. And then to continue on in various phases, you need to get more tickets or tokens. And it seems to me like it could be one of those things like, I don't know, Farmville, where it gets very expensive to get your heifers or something.
I have to admit, Matt, of all the people on the show that I thought would give me input on this, you didn't come to mind.
Well, it's like it's right by my app Evolution. You know, where you can just pull up a nice long take, and it goes on for 6 or 7 minutes while you look at it on your phone. But no, I'd be very interested to hear what other people say. Maybe I should look at it further before I get dismissive. But it struck me that this was like, this could get way too expensive, way too fast.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that it was just something that you buy and that's it.
Maybe that's true. Maybe I downloaded some kind of different gateway into it instead of purchasing the game. I don't know.
Maybe they got your AOL address incorrect or something. So
I'm just going to stick with my role-playing tabletop miniature games and call it a day.
On another matter, Chaosium has finally announced for an autumn release Joe Pulver's anthology, Leaves from the Necronomicon.
Nice. Kelly, you were babbling about Hereditary. Was it that good?
Babbling about it. I thought it was very good. I thought it was very scary. It had a really nice creeping sense of dread. I think this was the last weekend it was in theaters. So if you didn't catch it in theaters, you missed out on that. And there is something to be said for watching it with an audience, because this is another movie that third act just starts barreling and some crazy shit starts happening. And I was looking around the theater and watching everybody watching it through their fingers, which I think is a really good sign for a horror film.
Were you able to see over the 15-year-olds with their iPhones and Androids texting?
There were no 15-year-olds, no texting going on in this particular showing. Of course, there were hardly any people in the theater as well. It's been out for a month and a half or 2 months or whatever, and I just had heard too much about it to not see it in the theater. So, yeah, I think you're gonna like it. Danielle is gonna hate you, and
I think Scary Movie Night is dead.
Oh, really? What killed it? Was it A Quiet Place?
It was not A Quiet Place. No, she didn't even get that scared.
Oh.
It was Jeepers Creepers.
Oh.
Did you guys see the new one?
With the third one?
No, I'm talking about the first one.
Oh, the first one. Okay.
30 minutes in, she said, "I'm so scared I'm sweating. We need to turn this off."
Wow, wait till she finds out what the director did in real life.
Yeah, Jesus.
What?
No, please, we just don't. We'll
Let's
talk
not-
about this offline.
I would like to point out that on the YouTube viewers, Michael DeBronzo said, I would rather see a Sonya Blue series when we were talking about the Interview with Vampire. Well, Michael, there is a Sonya Blue series going out right now, or not going out, but being shot right now. If you're friends with Nancy Collins on Facebook, she's posting photos from the set, and it looks cooler and shit. So,
All right. Anything else to talk about? I mean, besides the upcoming Kim Possible live action movie.
what? What?
No.
You know, I spent about 3 hours searching for a version of the Naked Mole Rat song so my kids could hear it, but I could not find it.
I like Kim Possible. Logan was into that show and the video game when he was
I
real
watched
young.
every episode with my son. And
Yeah.
so I'm looking forward to
I
it.
think I've seen all of them. So
My girls don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. But they were like, Kim Possible, what's her psychic name? Unstoppable?
Ron
Yeah.
Stoppable.
Ron Stoppable. I forgot about Ron.
Unstoppable. They're like, oh, you're joking. And I'm like, yes.
Well, in the end, didn't he get the girl, though? I mean, I kind of remember that at the end of the show.
You got the green girl, right? The supervillain?
No, I thought he started dating Kim, didn't he?
I don't
He
remember.
dug Kim the whole series, didn't he?
Yeah.
He tried to, but there was always this weird retraction between him and the green girl. I think was the villain.
When I went white skin.
Yeah. Anyway.
You've seen this too, Rick?
I caught some of it when with my son. I don't remember any of it really. Though.
With your son?
Or my daughter. You know.
Wait, which one do I have?
You're lying. You watched it on your own. I know you
No,
did.
I'll admit to watching Superman, Batman, anything related to Marvel in those early 90s, 2000 era.
The female villain I'm talking about is Shigo.
Oh, right. I thought Kim Possible was really cool, so it'll be interesting to see if they can translate that to live action.
Who did the voice for Kim Possible? Wasn't it somebody on the
Christy Carlson Romano.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I just posted on the webpage on Facebook the side-by-side picture of the cartoon character in the live action.
Oh,
Good.
I just, because it's down to the last day or something, I kicked in on that Kickstarter that Pete got in on that new Cthulhu game.
I'm amazed at if they actually send everything that they say they're going to send.
Yeah.
What is it?
What's this called again, Pete? Cthulhu. Yeah.
Dead May Die.
Dead May Die.
Death May Die. Death May Die.
Death May Die. Okay.
Yeah. And
that's one with it. They got an insane amount of money.
Yeah, they asked for 200,000. They're up to 2,100,000 something.
Oh, I hope they make their goal.
They're on their last day or 2 days or something. So if you are interested, get in on it now. The reason I did is because the figure selection they're talking about giving you at the base level, which is $100, was right up there with Cthulhu Wars.
Right.
So I decided I would, since I missed Cthulhu Wars, that I would get in on this one.
And you guys are going to bankrupt me.
No, I did not get into Cthulhu Wars, but the art on this is good. The company has actually a reputation. They've produced other things.
Right, a good reputation.
And $100, you're looking at it as oh, but then there's a lot of figurines you get for $100.
Oh man, it's the thing is, I've got so many of these things. It's I've got plastic bins in my basement stacked one on top of the other. And Isabel says, I never even opened them, which is true, but it's kind of beside the point. But I
just send them to me. Just take a box and just send it to me.
it's like I just told myself, no, God, no, I'm gonna be strong.
I just spent $300 in Solomon Kane, you know.
Yeah.
Look, while you're spending money, I would like to bring up a good cause. As you know,
you don't get your $4 back. Sorry.
Yeah. That wasn't it. That's one of them. As we all know, because I'm sure you keep up with this, Kylie Jenner was on the top 20 richest women in the world. Pete's shaking his head at me. Now, the real tragedy here of this self-made woman is that she's only at $900 million. And someone has started a GoFundMe to help bring her up to $1 billion. Because, quote, I think this is almost a direct quote, I don't want to live in a world where Kylie Jenner isn't a billionaire. So you guys could spend money on that if you want.
All right. So if we're really going to spend money on something, let me just plug another Kickstarter. It's got 6 days left. It's Tales of Valor and Terror by Golden Goblin Press. It's a role-playing book and a fiction book. And yes, I have a story in it, set in the world of Cthulhu. This shut up.
Crickets.
Shut up.
There's crickets right now.
Yeah.
Cthulhu?
Cthulhu. I back that one because of the anthology.
Yep. If you look, the anthology, I've read it. It's really, really good. You know, I didn't know what I was getting into when I was asked to write the story. And then they sent me the anthology. And you know, there's that scene in High Fidelity where they stick in the tape from the kids that are skateboard punks outside the store, and they listen to it and they're like, this is really, really good.
Yeah.
You want to explain to me what Cthulhu is?
Cthulhu is the idea that for centuries, one of the things that has stood between humanity and the elder gods are cats. And the cats have had their own adventures fighting Cthulhu.
I'll buy that.
Well, there's a Caitlin Kiernan story to that effect, where the cats of Ulthar go out at night to fight elder beasts and stuff.
Yeah, it does tie into Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath.
Yep. And I have rewritten the Cats in the Wall from the point of view of the cats.
You mean the rats in the wall?
I'm sorry, the rats in the wall. Yes, I'm sorry, the rats in the wall from the point of view of the cats. I was told that I was treading on very thin ice because there were some problems.
Was the name of the cat? Yes.
But I have solved all those problems. And yeah, they love my story. I love my story. Everybody's boop boop be doo. This looks to be a really, really good anthology.
Okay.
The price point is good. So anyway, that's my plug.
Well, after you spend money on Kylie Jenner, you can do that.
Yes.
So, all right. Let's see. Next week we've got Dwight L. McPherson. Week after that, I'll be out of town, so no show. And
is that the Lovecraft copyright?
I don't believe so. I think you're thinking of Glenn Hirschberg.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, so
prize.
What was the prize again?
Okay, it is a hardcover copy of Johannes Cabell and the Fear Institute. Hardcover by Jonathan Howard, set in the Dreamlands.
Okay, if you want to be putting the random drawing for that prize, send an email to lovecraftezineprizes@gmail.com. And I've immediately forgotten the title again, whatever it was. Put that in the subject. And tell me how you listen to the show in the body of the email, if you want to. You don't have to. So, all right. Well, thanks, guys. Mike, it was really nice to meet you. And Darkest Hours is a very nice collection. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now going into the pile.
All right. Good.
I only need 3 more surgeries to get through the pile. But
all right, thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk to you next week.